it's fascinating from my point of view.
So can we take another question? Nadine Bradburn, can you come in?
Sure. I
Nadine,
am not a
where are you
musician.
from?
Oh, I'm in Binghamton, New York,
New York
upstate.
State.
Right. And what's your question?
Well, being the token MBA in the group, it's not musically related. I wanted to connect with you, Josh, because I know that music education in schools is very important to you. And we're in a situation where, budgets being what they are, our school district has to cut. And it looks as though they're choosing music, to the extent that our music program is being cut by 50%. And so there are a bunch of us parents who are sort of mobilizing around this, realizing that we should have been involved a lot earlier, doing long-term strategy to keep what we have, but more immediately, what are the things that we can do right now in order to restore what we had, hire back the orchestra teacher and that sort of thing. That's kind of a big bake sale. So if there are suggestions that anyone out there has for maybe organizations that I can contact who can help us, guide us, give us some help, and any words of encouragement would be greatly appreciated.
Well, it's always so sad to hear that when budgets are being cut, which is sort of an inevitability at various times, that music would be the first thing to be cut. It's tragic, actually, because the good that music does for kids, it's so important. I always believe that music and art is as important as math and language, as it's what it means to be a human being. Music and art it's part of who we are as humans, and not to have that in school is unthinkable. How anybody can be in an executive position and say let's cut that it's very hard for me to believe, although I've seen it happen. So I'm involved in some things myself. I'm involved, for instance, in an organization called Education Through Music, which is based in New York, and they've been bringing music programs into inner city schools for the most part that have no music program at all. And I've seen firsthand the amazing things that it does. I mean, I visited schools without any music programs, especially some very schools with very underprivileged kids that don't have a lot of resources, and I've seen the way kids interact and the chaos and the sort of feeling of hopelessness. And then I've seen these classes where music has been brought in, and it's unbelievable the self-esteem that it gives these kids, the way they work together, the skills that they gain from this. Besides they may not become the next Yo-Yo Ma, it doesn't matter. Having music in their lives is so huge. And so I'm involved in programs like that. I just came from Abu Dhabi and Dubai just this week, where I actually went and visited schools there and visited kids, and it's so important to have this. From your point of view, as parents, I think parents need to go to their schools. I guess as a business major, you talk about supply and demand. You have to show them that there's a demand, and you just have to make it clear to the powers that be that music is important for your kids. And so I think parents need to very much get involved and make that clear to the schools. And I don't know if this.
I mean, absolutely agree with what Josh says. And actually, I would even consider trying to make a connection to local authorities, the importance of how having arts and music education in schools actually prevents a lot of young kids from getting into all kinds of trouble later on in life.
Exactly.
And so it directly affects their budgets on policing, their budgets on all these kinds of things. And if politicians don't realize this, it's a disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. I'm afraid to say that we are suffering the same things here. And ironically, I just to add to what Josh was saying, on the way to this Google Hangout session, I was listening to the radio, and there's a wonderful program called Pick of the Week, and they were playing a little documentary, a radio documentary, about the importance of music, the fundamental importance of music in humankind. And it was fascinating coming, from the sounds of nature and how the oldest communities, the oldest civilizations have absolutely, this is intrinsic part of who we are. It's not separate. It's not a subject. It's not something.
Exactly.
It is within us.
It makes me think of there was an old medical treatment that is not used anymore because it was so barbaric. It was called a lobotomy, and people thought that this could help, and maybe it helped in certain ways. And they thought, look at this, we can cut out a huge part of the brain, and they could still function as people. As we discovered, they're not really people anymore. They're not who they were. And even though they're missing a large part of their brain. And the fact is, if you do this to a school, you're basically lobotomizing your school. You're cutting out a very important part of who it is. And the kids may be able to function on the surface, and you might think, look at that, we saved $20,000, and they seem to be doing okay, right? And what we're not realizing is how much this is going to affect in so many ways in their lifetimes. And it's the easiest money to spend. The most productive money you could spend is to put it in music. We should be it should be the opposite direction. With all the evidence now, with what they've done with, in South America, with the Sistema, getting kids off the street, and with all this incredible evidence all around the world, we should be putting 2-3 periods of music and art instead of one, not going the other.
Well, best of luck with that, Nadine.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And could we hear now another question?